All right, hello, welcome back to Unqualified Analysis, the show with zero qualifications, zero credentials, and a bunch of opinions on the sport of football. You know what? Trying to get this in by the buzzer while I still got the house to myself, and so no further delaying, man. We got a lot of stuff going on. I mean, Rivalry Week was crazy in its own right. Plus, on top of all that, you got coaching stuff going on. And it was just a smorgasbord of content that I'm going to try to get to in a tight hour 15, hour 30, something like that. Watch, I've stretched this to 2 hours. Wouldn't be surprised, but in the interest of not doing that, let's get right into the action, shall we? It is Rivalry Week, college football, and where else do we start? We were starting with, got to respect the game, respect the football. Going to take a quick sip of this caffeinated beverage. And as per usual, by sip, I mean vigorous gulp. I mean, that was just, excuse me, that was aggressive. Just there. Also, Chiefs wave Justin Ross. Hilarious. Either way, Justin Ross? Nah, John Ross. Justin Ross still languishing on the bench there somewhere. That was quite an era, but sticking to college. Justin Ross, Clemson, very good wide receiver at Clemson, by the way, but no longer in college, so no need to talk about him on this episode. NFL, by the way, you want to talk about coaching news, man. Stuff been popping off over the last day or so. We'll get to that on, I might actually put that one out on Wednesday, but don't need to get too ahead of myself. Either way, Ohio State, Michigan, the game, the jewel of rivalry week, every rivalry week, even as a Mississippi State fan, knowing how fun the Egg Bowl has been in the past, certainly wasn't this year, but we'll get to that in due time. Probably, next up, actually. But this game, I can admit, even having been a Mississippi State fan for, ever since I went to college there, I can admit that this is the crown jewel of rivalry week. The best rivalry in all the land, the one that always has the most stakes, and this year, it was no different. I mean, winner basically can't go to they can. It has happened in the past. It happened just last year where the loser of this game goes to the playoff. But these are not the same teams that they were last year. I think both of these teams are a little bit lesser, especially offensively, than what they were the previous season. Be it through resume, through actual on-field explosive play. Neither of these offenses have been up to where they were last year. So this is really a winner-take-all game. Loser goes home. Loser goes to just a garden variety New Year's Six Bowl. But enough dilly-dallying. The game itself ended up a final 30-24. Michigan comes out on top with their third straight win in this rivalry game. And as you could imagine, the Ohio State fans acted about as rationally as you would expect, having lost 3 straight to Michigan. They're calling for Ryan, well, some of them, the less rational of the fan base, calling for Ryan Day to be fired or to leave. There was even some speculation as the Texas A&M drama with their coach went on, which we'll certainly get to here in just a bit, don't you worry. But there was some speculation there that, hey, maybe with the unhappiness around Ohio State, maybe Ryan Day jumps over to Texas A&M. Could happen. Ultimately, didn't happen. Won't happen. You just simply don't fire a guy who's lost one game outside of Michigan games in the past. No need to say anything else. The dude's a fantastic coach, so you keep him around. All the credit in the world to Michigan, though, because there was a stretch there where Ohio State came back. I believe they made it, 24 to 27 at one point. Looked like they had all the momentum on their side. All they had to do was hold Michigan down and keep them from scoring. And what did Michigan do? They came out there and they reeled off a good drive, took them all the way down the field. And next thing you know, they get a lead late in the fourth quarter. Kyle McCord had an opportunity to bring his team down the field at the end. Ultimately, throws an ill-advised pass in the middle of the field. It gets intercepted. This game is over. Michigan punches its ticket to the Big Ten championship game. And no disrespect to Iowa, we saw how the Penn State game went earlier in this year, though, and we saw what Michigan and Ohio State did to Penn State earlier in the year. I would imagine Michigan is feeling pretty good about their national title aspirations, certainly their playoff aspirations. So long as they take care of business, they didn't even really have to cover the spread against Iowa. They just got to beat them. They go on as an undefeated Big Ten champion. They're a shoo-in for the college football playoff. And Ohio State, like I said, just on the outside looking in now. I expect them to drop down to 5, 6, somewhere in that range in these upcoming college football playoff rankings. And it's not over, right? It shouldn't be. This shouldn't be something that's framed as you got to just hit the reset button at Ohio State, because it's not like Ryan Day isn't doing a fantastic job. I mean, he's had playoff berths. He really did everything short of win the playoff game last year against the eventual national champion Georgia Bulldogs. Hello, dog. How you doing? You're a good pup. You want to hear about Michigan and Ohio State? Well, whether you want to or not, you're going to hear about it. Michigan, though, all the credit in the world to them. I mean, without having Jim Harbaugh, those last 3 games, I thought for certain, especially with how Sharon Moore started off his tenure as the Michigan interim head coach, I thought for sure that they were going to drop this game to Ohio State, even being in their own backyard, in their own stadium. I just thought, I mean, Ryan Day, having built this team pretty much specifically to beat Michigan. I mean, there's no question about it. They kind of modeled their game after what it takes to beat Michigan. Just, tough, physical, good run game, very good running backs, fantastic defense. Jim Knowles got the boys playing on that other side of the ball. Maybe the only defense, definitely the only defense in the Big Ten that is comparable to Michigan's was Ohio State. I mean, an argument can be made for Penn State, but we saw what both Michigan and Ohio State did to Penn State during this season. So, I mean, those two were just a cut above. It's the kind of game you would have expected. It was back and forth. There were times where Michigan looked like they might pull away. There were certainly times where Michigan or Ohio State looked like they were going to pull away at different points. I mean, just lived up to everything you would have asked. And yeah, big time credit to Michigan. They could have fallen apart at the seams when Jim Harbaugh got handed that suspension for the rest of the regular season by the Big Ten. Granted, you look at that suspension and think to yourself, wow, it's a little bit lenient. He can, install the game plan, do basically everything up until game day, and then Sharon Moore is just kind of, piloting the ship on game day, just using the game plan that Jim Harbaugh implemented. But still, not having him on game day is a big deal, because he's one of the best coaches in all of college football. So, getting through that stretch, going 3-0, punching their ticket to the Big Ten championship, and now having all they got to do is a win and you're in scenario for the playoff. I mean, all the credit in the world to Michigan. And I mean, I still really hope that the Vikings don't draft J.J. McCarthy, because, boy, it would be a mistake. But, he had a couple really, really nice throws in this game. Ultimately was the difference in the game and why they won and why they lost. I mean, there were a few officiating things here and there that you could say went Michigan's way, but I mean, by and large, all the credit in the world has to go to Michigan in this one. Blake Corum with 2 touchdowns in this game as well. Just a fantastic performance. Fantastic performance from the Michigan Wolverines. Hey, they even lost like an All-American type offensive lineman to a gruesome leg injury, broken leg. He went straight into surgery. Right after the game, pretty much that very night, just because of how bad the leg break was. So, yeah, I mean, fighting through all that adversity. This is just basically Michigan just punched their ticket to the college football playoff, so long as they take care of business here. But yeah, Ohio State, it's going to be another tough, loud offseason for you, but they're still going to be putting in top 5 recruiting classes, top 3, 4 recruiting classes every year. They're still going to have Ryan Day in the building. Who knows what the hell they're going to do at quarterback. Kyle McCord really hasn't come along like you saw from a trajectory of Justin Fields or C.J. Stroud or someone like that. So who knows what the future holds at quarterback, but this is still a program that going to be right there in the top 5 all of next year. This game between Michigan and Ohio State is once again probably going to be for a playoff spot next year, except for with that 12-team playoff. Not going to have nearly the stakes because they're both going to be top 5 teams, and win or lose, they're both probably in. So, way to just devalue the regular season. But, the college football playoff with 12 teams is going to be great, if you trust the lemmings that say as much. But, don't want to get on my soapbox on that. Just, savor this while it lasts. It's a fantastic high-stakes game, winner-take-all type of game. And not even really the best finish of the weekend, though. We'll get to a couple of those in just a second. But time to get into a little bit of coaching carousel news. Via the Egg Bowl, which happened on Thursday night, we're going to start going back chronologically here through the top 25. Ole Miss went to Mississippi State, and hey, credit to the defense. Mississippi State's defense played the best game they played all year, quite frankly. The only comparable time was when they played that god-awful Dan Enos offense for the Arkansas Razorbacks, which doesn't even really count because Dan Enos was such a bad offensive coordinator. But hey, against a really high-octane sort of offense, an offense that's put up a bunch of points this year, Mississippi State held stout. And yeah, Bookie Watson was incredible. Jet Johnson was incredible too, both in their final games at Mississippi State. Credit where it's due. It's just that offense is something just god-awful for Mississippi State. So ultimately, Ole Miss gets the win 17-7, obliterating the under on the over-under if you were inclined to bet that sort of thing. Yeah, Ole Miss gets a win. They got another 10-win season. Good for them, I suppose. Ole Miss gets to talk their shit for another year. Ugh, it hurts me. It hurts me deep down inside. This is one that I wanted to win just because it would have been the funniest Egg Bowl win of all time. But you know what? I think we're going to have a solid opportunity next year because you know what? Mississippi State's got a new head coach. He goes by the name of Jeff Lebby, the offensive coordinator, formerly of Oklahoma over the last 2 years, which you may remember, yes, Brent Venables was brought in to be a defensive head coach, shore up that defense in a way that Lincoln Riley simply never could over there with Oklahoma. But the true bright spot of that team for Oklahoma was still the offense. And I think they've scored 63 different times this year. Last year they were fantastic as well. And with low-key, a little bit of a dearth of talent at wide receiver, especially compared to what Oklahoma usually has. They're still, taking whatever they're given and making, just gourmet lemonade or lemon meringue pie out of the lemons that they get over there. And Jeff Lebby was a huge part of that. Obviously, Brent Venables isn't installing the offensive game plan. Jeff Lebby I would assume, had full reign over that. So he is bringing that to Mississippi State. Seems to be an aggressive recruiter. Guys like Steve Robertson, 24/7 guy, kind of an insider, I guess you could call him, for the Mississippi State program. He said, based on his sources, he kind of got hired on the notion that he would do a quick turnaround job, maybe delve into the portal a little heavily. We'll see this will be a big test of what the NIL capabilities are for Mississippi State, because he can't delve into the portal like that and be competitive on this wild west of free agency unless you got a little bit of cash to spend on the NIL front. We'll have to see what Zach Selman, the AD at Mississippi State, has been doing and how successful he has been as far as the fundraising aspect of his job is concerned. I have all the faith in the world that he will be able to come in, and at the very least, that offense is going to be night and day from what they were this year. Will Rogers entered the portal after this game. We'll see. If you've listened to this podcast for a while, or if you know me personally, I've had my ups and downs with Will Rogers. He's been a great Mississippi State guy. Good to have him on the team for as long as he has been there. Ultimately, though, not the strongest arm in the world. Maybe it's best for both parties if there's a mutual parting of ways. Will Rogers can go look for greener pastures elsewhere. Maybe a situation that's more conducive to his talents. Jeff Lebby can bring in his own guy, whether it be Jackson Arnold for Oklahoma, which doesn't really seem likely. I think Jackson Arnold is in line to be the starter at Oklahoma next year, so that's probably off the table. But it feels like either we're going to roll with Mike Wright and we're going to build a hell of a running game next year, or we're going to go into the portal and get someone, or maybe we just stick with Chris Parson. He was true freshman this year, 4-star guy coming out of high school. Maybe you just elevate him as your quarterback next year as well. I think what this does mean is that you would keep Xavion Thomas in the building. I think Tulu Griffin is a senior, so he's probably done. I don't think he has any eligibility left. Great career for Tulu, by the way. One of my favorite players at Mississippi State. Just an explosive play waiting to happen. We still got some really solid underclassmen, especially in the backfield. Seth Davis comes to mind right off the top of my head. A couple guys we got in the portal this year that worked out really well. Not really personnel-wise, I don't know if we're that far off from being a really competitive offense. defensively, we're going to have some work to do. Really got to hope for some underclassmen to step up in a big-time way. Got to hope that Jeff Lebby nails the defensive coordinator hire first and foremost. If we end up with a bad defensive coordinator hire, I mean, hey, we might be a fun team next year, but 6-6 is the very ceiling if we don't get a very good defensive coordinator next year, because personnel is not going to be what it was this year, quite frankly. I mean, the defensive coordinator this year, God help me, I can't remember his name, but he didn't really give me a real reason to remember it this year. The defensive coordinator that Mississippi State had this year squandered more front seven talent than I've just about ever seen coming out of Mississippi State. Certainly not quite to that, the 2017 defense that had Jeffrey Simmons, Montez Sweat, Jonathan Abram. That's 3 first-round picks I just named. Probably not quite to that level, but hey, Bookie Watson and Jet Johnson were the top 2 tacklers in the SEC this year. Pickering was a damn good defensive tackle. Really, just up and down the line of scrimmage, you had guys that really were solid defenders and played well under Zach Arnett's defense the previous year. But the scheme was just so terrible, and they looked out of place basically at all times. Just squandered all the talent that we had on that side of the ball. It was a real shame what happened to that defense this year. Hopefully Jeff Lebby gets it right. Hopefully going forward that we can kind of get back to the offensive ways a little bit more. Young 30s offensive coordinator, hot shot, young offensive mind. He comes in. Maybe we get something going there. It's worked well for us in the past with one Dan Mullen. But from a football perspective, I like this hire. I would have probably rather have John Summerall, head coach at Troy, quite frankly. I thought he was pretty much a slam dunk hire. I mean, talk about a guy who's coached his ass off. I think he's lost all of 2 games since losing to App State in that Hail Mary, I believe it was last year. Really got Troy playing their asses off, and is very familiar with the South. He could recruit his ass off if he brought in his staff there at Mississippi State. But Jeff Lebby can also seemingly recruit his ass off too. No head coaching experience, but this was inevitable at some point for Jeff Lebby. Why not us? And you know what? Did that work out well last time with Zach Arnett? Not really, but hopefully this time around we hit it big. If nothing else, the offense should be kicking ass. So got that to look forward to. From a football perspective, I feel good about this hire. I would be remiss, though, if I didn't mention just the teensy-weensy little detail of Jeff Lebby's very close relationship with Art Briles. Not only is Art Briles his father-in-law, Jeff Lebby is married to Art Briles' daughter, so they spent Thanksgiving together. Also had Art Briles down on the sideline one game early in this fall for Oklahoma. Wild. Hope Zach Selman straight up said at some point, yeah, you can't do that here. You simply can't bring him down on the field here. I'd prefer him as far away from our program as possible. It's not just that, though. It is not just that it's a close familial tie. If it was just the familial tie, maybe it's, a little bit less worrying. The real worrying part is Jeff Lebby was on that staff at Baylor. Not only was he on that staff, that you may remember got Baylor in some pretty hot water, basically blackballed Art Briles for enabling one of the worst cultures of all time. I mean, crimes, sexual assault, just terrible things done to countless women at the University of Baylor that were just swept under the rug time and time again for that staff. And it wasn't just that he was there, it's that he was named by one of the alleged victims over there. He was named personally as someone that was had something reported to him and then did absolutely nothing about it. So I don't love this from an off-field perspective. I'm going to be completely honest. My only hope here, because that's bad. All that stuff I just laid out there, that is bad stuff, and I don't feel very good about that from a moral perspective. I just hope over the last 7 years he has learned a little something more about how to be a little bit less morally questionable. Hopefully he has learned a little bit about, not sweeping shit under the rug. Just a novel concept there to go with. My real hope is that people change and he won't bring that type of culture to Mississippi State, but that's literally all I can do at this point. But hopefully we win. Hopefully we don't get absolutely, buried in disgrace once he inevitably takes a better job. I think that would be the best case scenario for everyone involved. But I don't know. Like I said, from a football perspective, I am excited about having Jeff Lebby in town. I think it's going to be an exciting brand of football to watch, which is a great change of pace from the just poo-poo garbage shit that I watched all of this year. I just hope he doesn't absolutely tank the program off the field. And with that, let's move on to some other games, shall we? Oregon just wiped the floor with Oregon State on Friday, 31-7. Oregon didn't quite score as much as they usually do. Oregon State kind of plays a style that isn't really conducive to high-scoring games, though, quite frankly. So it's understandable. Oregon dominated this game, though. Make no two ways about it. They punched their ticket emphatically to the college football playoff, and I would imagine they probably slot up one ahead of Ohio State at this point. Ohio State probably coming in at 6, I would imagine, with Oregon coming in there at 5, just behind Florida State, I would imagine. Florida State probably sneaks back in. They're still undefeated. We'll get to them in just a bit. They're still undefeated after this week, so they're probably in the playoff picture as well. Probably sliding in there right at 4. I would assume Washington at 3, Michigan at 2, Georgia at 1. Just spitballing. I'll probably be exactly right. Whatever. It is what it is. But yeah, Oregon punches their ticket to the Pac-12 championship. That is going to be, once again, probably another winner-take-all game. If Washington wins, they're a shoo-in into the college football playoff. If Oregon wins, I think they probably have the best resume of any one-loss team in all of college football. So I think they're probably in as well if they win. And that Pac-12 championship, probably going to be the very best game of this weekend coming up outside of, maybe Georgia, Alabama. One thing at a time, though. More head coaching news. Oregon State's, hey, not only do they not really have a conference next year, they're going to be, merging scheduling with the Mountain West, which seems like really just a precursor to Washington State and Oregon State just kind of joining the Mountain West when it's all said and done. Not only that, not only have you lost your Power 5 status, there is no Power 5 anymore, so, not only have you lost that, they lost their head coach too, which is kind of to be expected. I don't think you keep a guy like Jonathan Smith. No matter if he is an Oregon State guy, if he was a star quarterback there at one point, he deserves a top-end job with the way he has brought Oregon State back from nothing pretty much, and that's exactly what he got. Michigan State hires Jonathan Smith away from Oregon State, and I don't want to spend too much time on it. The one thing you got to maybe worry about is recruiting prowess in that area of the country. He's a West Coast guy. He's been on the West Coast for a long time. That being said, if he hires the right recruiting staff, if he gets the right people in there to adequately recruit the area and the state of Michigan, that Midwest area, he'll be just fine because he is a really, really solid head coach. And his style of play, the physical running game, letting the running game kind of, build out from that, help the passing game out a little bit more, kind of, a little bit more conservative style, but a style that can put up a bunch of points when you need it to. So long as he can get the defense right on the other side, I think Michigan just had a slam dunk hire here. Slam dunk is probably a little bit strong, but I think of the guys left on the board, maybe you could have gone for a Lance Leipold or something like that, or a Chris Kleiman, one of the Kansas head coaches. Jonathan Smith, though, really, really solid hire. A hire that I think is one of the better ones in this cycle. It's going to be a nice breath of fresh air after the just debacle that the previous administration was there with the Michigan State football program. Like the hire, hate it for Oregon State. Can't stress that enough, but I like the hire of Jonathan Smith there with Michigan State. I think they got a really good one there. Hopefully he sticks longer than the last guy. Mel Tucker was quite an experience there with the Michigan State Spartans. We move on from there. Texas just beat the piss out of Texas Tech, 57-7. They're in the Big 12 championship game. They will be playing Oklahoma State. Who would have thought that coming into the regular season? There were a few smart analysts out there that said that. I certainly was not one of them, and I will not pretend to be otherwise. I had zero faith in Oklahoma State. I've said it before, I'll say it again until the cows come home. The best coaching job that Mike Gundy has done. Hats off to him. I'll show you my terrible hair today. Hats off to him for a coaching job. Very, very well done. Caffeine time. Ooh, got to give it a second for that gas to percolate. Disgusting. I know. I don't know why I'm pointing at the mic. There's no camera in the mic. But yep, that's that for that game. 57-7, Texas. Still not sure. They're going to have to win that game against Oklahoma State emphatically to punch their ticket to the college football playoff because, I mean, hell, I said it last week. I think if Alabama beats Georgia, they will get in over Texas no matter what the head-to-head says and all the groveling that'll happen because of that. Alabama's a better team right now. Texas is going to need some help pretty much regardless to get into the college football playoff. They can help themselves, though, if they just blow Oklahoma State out of the water. So that'll be something to watch here coming up in rivalry week. Blake Shapen's entered. It's transfer portal day. It's one of those transfer portal days. It's regular season is over, so you're getting, guys slowly trickling into the transfer portal. So I'm kind of, Blake Shapen, Baylor quarterback in the transfer portal. He wasn't really starting towards the back portion of the season. So yeah, it is what it is there. Missouri, another team blowing another team out of the water. Gets their 10th win of the season. 48-14 over Arkansas, who has been put in quite a bind. Quite a bind by sticking with Sam Pittman. The AD came out and backed him last week. And boy, I wonder how he was feeling about that while watching his team just get annihilated over and over and over in this game. Arkansas scored a couple garbage time points, but I mean, this thing was basically it was 41-0 going into the fourth quarter. This thing was all but wrapped up with a 21-point third quarter by Missouri in this one. Hell, it was 20-0 at halftime. This game was never really close. So yeah, they're going to roll with Sam Pittman for another year. I can't imagine it's going to go great. Gonna, probably get a fresh new slate of coordinators. Hopefully you can recruit. I think I said it before in this podcast. I don't think they probably should have stuck with Sam Pittman, but it is what it is now. You kind of passed the window where the prime candidates are there for the picking, so they're going to have to roll with Sam Pittman now. As far as Missouri goes, though, I mean, again, hats off to them. I'm not actually taking my hat off this time because I don't want to show off how bad my hair is today. It's a bad hair day. So, a tip of the cap, tip it forward there for you to Missouri this season. 10-2. There were a few people that called this. Hell, I thought Missouri was going to be very, very good this year. I thought 9-3, 8-4 certainly was in the cards this season, but 10-2 exceeded my expectations, quite frankly. They're a really, really good football team. Cody Schrader going from walk-on to just 200-yard rushing machine. I mean, just basically every time out there. They've got the best receiver in the SEC this year, bar none, with Luther Burden. Just a really, really solid football team. And now they're starting to get 4 and 5 stars in there. Missouri, a program that is starting to kind of ascend, might be one of those teams that, probably not going to vie up there just yet with the Alabamas or the Georgias of the world in the SEC, but really planting their flag there in that second tier right below it with just a shade behind LSU. Really Missouri and Ole Miss are basically in the same range right now, and I honestly think Missouri is a better football team, based on what they have, better defense. Yeah, better defense for sure. I don't know how good Brady Cook is. He kind of fell off towards the back part of the season, but really good football team there for Missouri. Hats off to them, like I said, and I feel like it's only going to get better from there. I don't think you're gonna get a lot of places that can poach Eli Drinkwitz at this point, and as long as he's there, man, they're building something. They're building something in Missouri. I think they're probably going to be another top 10 team next year, and we'll see how it goes from there. Like I said, they landed a 5-star in this past recruiting cycle. I'm excited to see where this program goes, quite frankly, because they could have another murderer's row of commitments in this next this next recruiting class as well. I'm looking forward to watching from afar to what that staff does. Eli Drinkwitz, goofy son of a bitch, weird, kind of a weird guy, but a hell of a football coach who put together a hell of a staff there with the Missouri Tigers. Like I said, very, very much looking forward to, very impressed with what I have seen from that Missouri football team. So we will move on from there. Penn State, took care of business, got to 10 wins. Once again, only 2 losses being to Michigan and Ohio State. They get a win emphatically over Michigan State, 42-0. Hey, you got a good hire in the door, Michigan State. That's what you got to hang your hat on for this one. Hopefully the long-running nightmare is almost over for you. Michigan State was such a bad football team these past 2 years, essentially, though. So, hey, at least your season is over. And you got a new head coach in town. Oklahoma, man, their defense is not very good, but that offense, whoo boy. Man, whoever gets that offensive coordinator, they're going to have a hell of an offense. I'll tell you what, man. Oklahoma won 69-45. Man, who hired Jeff Levy? I don't quite remember off the top of my head. That's interesting. Whoever made that hire as the head coach, probably made a good hire. We'll have to see about the culture there with the Art Briles connection. That's a good football hire right there. But yeah, Oklahoma, not in the Big 12 title game. Probably going to get a solid bowl season, though. It's just a flurry of opt-outs. We'll see if Dylan Gabriel goes, if all their key players go for Oklahoma. But yeah, just a season of kind of wasted opportunity after how it started. However, though, if you go back to the beginning of the season, Vegas had the over-under win total for Oklahoma at 9.5, I believe, and they hit the over on that at 10-2. So, gotta understand that calibration of expectations has to be appropriate here. This was a successful season for Oklahoma. Just what could have been. You dropped a couple there that you really should not have dropped, quite frankly. So, yeah. Hopefully you're better next year. We'll have to see. Jackson Arnold coming into the SEC with a new offensive scheme as well. All I got to say is he better be the real deal, because if he's not, it is going to be a rough first year with the big boys. You ain't playing no Big 12 schedule in the SEC. You can go ahead and look at what they got for 2024. Boy, it is a murderer's row. It is an absolute murderer's row. So they better be ready. That's all I'm saying there. TCU not very good either, but it is what it is. They lost basically all their team from that national championship berth, so it is to be expected, quite frankly. So yeah, just better luck next year. You still got Sonny Dykes in there, so hopefully it continues to work out. Iowa continues to just play a sad brand of football that just does nothing but result in wins. They beat Nebraska to the tune of 13-10. I believe they hit the under there as well. And they've just been absolute assassins with having the lowest over-unders in college football history and hitting the under basically every time. I believe they're like 6-1 to the under on these crazy low over-unders that they've had over this last string of games. Unfortunately, they're playing Michigan in the next game, so the line is set at like -23 or something in favor of Michigan. The over-under is in like the mid-30s, which boo. I hate that. Set it down. Set it to like 25, man. Why not? Just keep on going lower. Keep on going lower in this thing. I hope for Iowa's sake that they make it a rock fight there in that Big Ten title game. But I can't say I have a whole lot of faith. I can't really profess to have a terrible amount of faith in that Iowa team to go out there and win. The history of the Big Ten West and the Big Ten championship game since they went to the directional divisions has not been kind to the Big Ten West. So probably for the best that they're getting rid of that divisional structure after this year. And boy, the Big Ten is going to be fun next year too. I hate that they had to gut the Pac-12 to do it, but it should be interesting. It geographically makes no fucking sense whatsoever, but it's going to be an interesting conference nonetheless. So have to wait and see on that. Iowa now is in the catbird seat as far as, hey, anything can happen. Any given Saturday, if they snap the ball, they blow the whistle there on Saturday, they got a chance, and that's pretty much all I'm going to say. They got a chance. They got to win here, 13-10. Matt Rule 5-7 in his first year as a head coach. I've already said my piece on him multiple times. Don't overreact to year one. He does not historically have very good year ones, and that team was playing hard down the stretch. They could not play offense to save their life throughout the course of this season, but that you saw that defense get better and better and better as the year went on. I think if Nebraska just has a modicum of offense next year, they're going to be in line for an 8-win season, maybe even pushing for 9 wins. And yet, even that's even with a tougher Big Ten schedule now that the division structure is gone. I believe very much in what Matt Rule is doing there with the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Good luck to Iowa next week in that Big Ten championship game. That's not going to be fun. But hey, after the bowl game, after all this is said and done, keep an eye on that Iowa offensive coordinator position. Whoever they hire there is going to be very illustrative of what the philosophy going forward is going to look like for Iowa. I would imagine it's going to be on the conservative side, but do they go with someone that's, kind of on the conservative side, but a little bit more modern? I would imagine that, that would be the best way for Kirk Ferentz to go. I don't think you're ever going to see someone like Phil Longo come in there to Iowa, bring, some fun and gun shit, spread offense, bombs down the field. I don't think you're ever going to see that at Iowa. But, someone like a similar offense to what Jonathan Smith had at Oregon State, something that's very run heavy, but uses a lot of creative concepts to where you can score a bunch of points that way. I feel like the myth is being dispelled more and more in this current era of really football in general, where we went really hard into the air raid style, big time passing offenses in the previous iteration. This time, I think people are really starting to realize, and the myth is being dispelled, that you can't score points by running the ball a lot. I mean, Oregon State kind of dissuaded that notion. In the NFL, Kyle Shanahan kind of dispels that notion as well. I think if you bring in someone that's very creative scheme-wise in the running game, I think you can get some points scored in a fashion that I think is very palatable for Brian Ferentz. And it's not like Kirk Ferentz. My goodness, Brian Ferentz is gone. He is in the wind. He ain't been wearing Iowa gear for weeks now, even though he is still the offensive coordinator there. But yeah, Kirk Ferentz, it's not like he's been a bad coach. I mean, he's been there for damn near 30 years for a reason. It's because he's put guys in the NFL. He's taken guys that maybe not the highest rated recruits either, put them in a really good strength and conditioning program, coached the hell out of them, and made a whole lot of NFL talent out of guys that you would not have expected, quite frankly. So, I mean, he's a hell of a coach. He just needs to have a bit more of a modern offensive system that kind of fits what his MO is. And I'm looking forward to seeing what Iowa ends up doing there. Don't think Kirk Ferentz is going anywhere. So the offensive coordinator is going to be the only real big change this offseason, I would imagine. Final game on Friday, Tulane won comfortably versus UTSA, 29-16. Tulane 11-1 on the season, only loss being to Ole Miss this year when they were down their starting quarterback, whose name escapes me right now. I don't know why. It's not Willie Fritz. That's the head coach. Michael Pratt, who really had a terrible game in this one, 9-22. I don't want to harp on the kid. He did end up winning the game, didn't turn the ball over either, which is, did fumble the ball, did lose a fumble, but didn't throw an interception either, which is a plus. But that one loss they had was without Michael Pratt, so with Ole Miss too, anything could have happened there, but ultimately it was all for naught. But Tulane 11-1 on the season. They'll face SMU in the American title game there. The title for all of America. Who would have thought? Tulane and SMU. I believe the final year that SMU is going to be in the American, actually. Quietly going to the ACC after this year for literally no money. All prestige going to the ACC, and the ACC might not even exist after this offseason. We'll have to see how that percolating eruption goes. More caffeine time. And then, after I let this gas pass, quieter burp that time because I'm a courteous son of a bitch here. Let's talk about the stuff that happened on Saturday. Georgia seemed like they were looking ahead to the SEC championship. They kind of struggled here with Georgia Tech, but ultimately, hey, Carson Beck had his one bad game of the season, threw for 175, a touchdown, and interception. But ultimately, Kendall Milton picked up the slack. 18 carries, 156 yards, 2 touchdowns, and that ended up being the difference in this game. Georgia gets the win 31-23. Georgia Tech, bowl eligible in first year of their new head coach, whose name escapes me. But don't be fooled by the fact that I don't know the guy's name. Taking Georgia Tech to a 6-6 record this year deserves a little round of applause, a little golf clap right now. Got Georgia Tech moving in the right direction, so we'll see what happens after this. Georgia, though, finished the season undefeated. I believe they now won either 28 or 29 straight games, setting up a big-time matchup with Alabama in the SEC title game. We'll get the Iron Bowl, easy for me to say, here in just a minute, but yeah, Georgia, still the best team in the country for my money. Didn't really learn anything new in this game. We just, set up a big-time matchup that was already set up for the last several weeks. This just really felt like a look-ahead spot for Georgia, so can't blame them on that one. We move on from there. Washington State gave Washington just about everything they could handle. This is, another game where Washington didn't come out looking impressive. At least the defense held Washington State down to 21 points, but another game where Washington, playing a Washington State team that is just reeling, just absolutely reeling. They have lost 7 of their last 8 games, their only win coming to lowly Colorado, who they destroyed, by the way, last week. Colorado, they beat them 56-14. Not very good. Not very good. Colorado, by the way, finished last in the Pac-12 this year, so yep, that's pretty much exactly, 4-8 is a success in my mind for year one of Deion Sanders. Just because they started the season 4-0, got us a little bit excited that, hey, maybe they'd be a fun and frisky team. No, not at all. They kind of crashed and burned down the stretch, but yeah, Washington State, a legitimately bad team this year as well. Gave Washington all they could handle in this game. Took them right down to the wire as I accidentally, go to like a multi-view setup on my monitor. I don't know what the hell's going on there, but I digress on that front. What the hell are we doing? Get out of here. Get off my screen right now. But yeah, Washington did survive. Was not pretty, but they did survive. Rome Odunze did his job. 7 receptions, 120 yards, 2 touchdowns in this one. I believe Jalen Polk might have had a big game in this one too. Or Jalen McMillan, excuse me. And he also did not have a big game. Rome Odunze was the star in this game. Michael Penix didn't have a great game. Dylan Johnson had a little bit lesser game than what you would expect, but Rome Odunze with that 120 yards, those 2 touchdowns, also had a rush for 23 yards as well. Rome Odunze, that's a first-round pick right there. He is an absolute stud on the outside for Washington. Got a bunch of studs on the outside for Washington. So, hasn't looked pretty. Basically, ever since that Oregon game, Washington has been doing everything they could do to lose games except for the actual losing part. They are 12-0 going into the Pac-12 title game, but they're a nearly 10-point dog to Oregon because while Washington has been kind of reeling down the stretch, Oregon has been getting better and better and better every single week since Washington beat them earlier on in the season. And I've said it a couple times here on this show, Oregon was not far off from beating Washington in that game. It was just a couple gambles here and there that didn't work out, a couple 4th down stops, a couple 2-point conversions that they didn't end up converting on. They were right there. They were this close to actually beating Washington earlier in the season. I think Oregon's going to win in this Pac-12 title game, but it should be an interesting one nonetheless. I believe that one's on Friday night, so that one should be good fun. Good fun. But yeah, Washington didn't trip up at the last moment. They are in the Pac-12 title game this week. Did just enough to win. Washington State in pretty much the same exact position as Oregon State, except for Washington State still has their head coach for now. So, yep, that's sad. Hate to see it. Hopefully Washington State can keep this thing going in the future. We'll see. What we will see on the flip side. Florida State won again. They did win. Tate Rodemaker was not good, 134 yards, but didn't turn the ball over. So that's good. That's good. They get the win over Florida, 24-15. So hey, they are in the ACC title game. Already were in the ACC title game, but really to stay in the college football playoff, they got to win all of these games, every single one down the stretch. Because if they lose one, especially if they lose to Louisville in the ACC title game, they ain't going to the playoffs, folks. Not with that backup quarterback in there. It does matter in the eyes of the committee, but if they win out, it's not going to matter because you're not keeping a 13-0 conference champion, ACC champion, out of the college football playoff. It's just simply not going to happen. If they win out, they will be in, unless Washington wins as well, in which case I would imagine, well, actually, yeah, with Ohio State losing, yeah, they would get in over Ohio State or any of the one-loss teams out there. So, yeah, I think all they got to do is win. Easier said than done. I don't necessarily want them to make the playoff because they would be the 4 seed by default, and really they would just, be making the playoff just, for the privilege to be absolutely waxed by Georgia. Now, I mean, Georgia, with Tate Rodemaker at quarterback for Florida State, Georgia might win by 40. I would not be shocked at all. The line would be in the teens at the very least, I would say. I would much rather a more competitive team in there at the 4 spot, but if they win, they're in pretty much. It's a resume thing. It's not necessarily a quality of football team thing. Yeah, winning, you're in. That's all you got to look forward to there, Florida State. As far as Florida, I don't think Billy Napier's that good, folks. I had some reservations early on in the season. Like, hey, the Utah game, they looked terrible. They looked completely undisciplined. But hey, it's early on in the season. Give them some time to figure it out. Maybe they round into shape down the back portion of the season. And you just saw nothing but undisciplined play week after week. Games they could have won that slipped away. Games that should have been closer, becoming blowouts because of bad, undisciplined play. You saw it in this game time and time again. And what do you know? Florida finishes with the exact same record as Mississippi State, 5-7. They ain't going to a bowl game unless they get selected for one of those pity bowls, which... do you even want to go at this point? Do you even want to go to a pity bowl after going 5-7? I personally wouldn't, but who's to say? Billy Napier's not getting fired. I'm not breaking any news there. He's not getting fired this season. That being said, if he does not get 8 wins or more next season, I think 8 wins is the mark. If he does not get more than 8 wins next year, he will be fired. I mean, mark my words. This third year at Florida is put up or shut up time. Make no mistake about it. His back is against the wall. He had one more year pretty much after that. I think most of the rational people knew that he had basically one more year to prove it after this year, barring any complete catastrophe, which Florida was not a good football team this year, but no catastrophe happened. So he gets that one more year. Got a really good recruiting class as of right now. Decommitments are always possible, but as of right now, on paper, has a really, really good recruiting class coming in. Have to see what he does in the portal. I don't think Graham Mertz is going to be there next year. I think he's more of a grad transfer sort of guy, so he'll probably be out of there. Don't really know about that. Just talking straight out of my asshole with that. So take that for what it is. But yeah, Florida. Next year is put up or shut up time. I was not very impressed with Billy Napier this year. Wasn't very impressed last year. He's going to have to show some real tangible results as far as growth in this next season to keep his job. Because if he goes 6-6, 7-5, God forbid if he goes 5-7, he's gone, absolutely gone, and they will be looking at hopefully Lane Kiffin to take that spot. So Ole Miss goes in the tank. But just selfish ramblings there, selfish ramblings. Yep. I think about wrung all the juice I could out of that game. Let's get to the craziest finish of the weekend here in this one. Alabama on the ropes. Well, first off, early on in the game, The officials, I don't know. College officials stink, man. I mean, the NFL officials have their bad days. They certainly didn't have a great day yesterday, especially that crew with the I believe it was the Jaguars Texans game I was watching. Boy, did they stink. They were not very good. But the college officials are that much worse. They missed maybe the most blatant face mask I have ever seen on a kickoff. I have no idea how it wasn't called. It was so clear. I mean, the guy damn near got his head ripped off by an Alabama player. No call whatsoever. Ultimately, not what won Alabama the game, though, so we'll leave that there. Why not just skip to the final play that matters, really the final sequence that matters. Jalen Milroe gets him all the way down to the goal line. They're right there. I mean, he's been balling all day, just hitting long passes like he has basically all year since ever since that South Florida game, he's gotten better and better each week, and he looked really, really good again this week. I mean, using his legs as per usual, one of the best running quarterbacks in the entire country, gets him all the way down to the goal line, and then I don't know I can't remember if he fumbled the snap or if it was a bad snap, but goes all the way back to the 31-yard line. And that was on 3rd and goal, I believe. So you got 4th and goal from the 31-yard line. You need a touchdown to win the game. And all Jalen Milroe does is throw a prayer up into the left corner of the end zone. His player comes down with it. I believe it was, was that Burton? I got to see. I got to give the kid the credit here. Isaiah Bond in the corner, 31 yards. Jalen Milroe hits him with about, 32 seconds left in the game. Alabama wins it. The Iron Bowl is over. Jordan Hare goes silent. The students are crying. It's a beautiful, beautiful sight if you just don't like Auburn very much, which I'm guilty of that. I'm guilty of that, quite frankly. And Auburn goes home crying. Alabama stays 11-1. Playoff hopes alive. I scared the absolute shit out of my dog at this play because that was one of those things like, okay, the game is on the line. I got to go back in the kitchen to do something real quick, but first and foremost, got to watch this play, see what happens. And when that pass got caught by Isaiah Bond, I lost my mind a little bit. It was insane. One of the more insane plays that I've seen this year. That's just par for the course for this rivalry, man. You may remember the kick six back from, it's been a decade now. God damn, I'm getting old. But, this is just a rivalry that has insanity almost every year. And that did not disappoint this year. One of the more insane endings of this season. Right up there with Miami coughing one up at the end versus Georgia Tech when they could have just kneeled the ball out and instead fumble the ball, give it back to Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech hits like a 40-some yard pass to ultimately win the game. Right up there with that. Crazy. 4th and goal from the 31 and you hit a touchdown. Are you kidding me? That is just completely insane. Alabama gets the win though. They set up their date with Georgia in the SEC title game. That one's not a win or go home because if Georgia wins, obviously they're the number 1 seed in the college football playoff. They're in for that. If they lose, I think they're pretty much in no matter what. I think a 1-loss Georgia team is in over maybe even an undefeated FSU team. That's just how good Georgia has been this year, and they get that benefit of the doubt because they're the 2-time defending national champions. Now, if they look bad, if they look abjectly terrible versus Alabama, maybe you get some in the committee wondering, okay, maybe we put someone else in, maybe a more deserving 1-loss team. There could be some real chaos scenarios here if Georgia loses, but I think either way, if Georgia loses, that just means 2 SEC teams will be in the college football playoff because I think if Alabama wins that SEC title game, I think they are in the college football playoff. I think they've been playing that good down the stretch. Almost coughed one up in this one. Make no mistake about it. Really got very, very close to coughing one up in this game, in this Iron Bowl. But ultimately, I think they've done enough. I think they've done enough, and especially if they beat Georgia, they'll have the very best win of the entire college football season, regardless of whoever it is. If they win, they're in, quite frankly. I think they've got enough of a resume at this point that they would jump Texas and get into the college football playoff. One thing at a time. That's going to be a really fun game. I think it's going to be a close one. I think those teams are going to be going back and forth till the very end. I think that might be the very best game of championship weekend. So watch out for that one, folks. We'll get to that in a bit. I mean, another crazy finish, though, in rivalry week. Kentucky. I mean, they were playing like dog shit down the stretch of this year. They were just bad all around. But they go into Louisville, and a rivalry that they have dominated over the last, I believe they won 5 straight now. They get the win in this one. They outscore Louisville 17-7 in the fourth quarter to get the win. Devin Leary had himself a solid game in this one. 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, 9.4 yards per attempt. He was slinging the ball all around the field. But ultimately, this comes down, like most games come down to, it comes down to turnover margin. Louisville had 3. Kentucky had 1. That's the tale of the game right here, man. And you had, I mean, just crazy play after crazy play. In the beginning of the third, well, not the beginning of the, but like the end of the third quarter, I mean, actually, no. Coming out of halftime, slow down my mind here, Louisville went on a 15-play, 75-yard drive, capped off by a 1-yard touchdown by Jawar Jordan. That took 9 minutes and 10 seconds off the clock. What does Kentucky do to answer that after Louisville goes up 17-7? Oh, I don't know. Barry Brown just returns the ensuing kickoff back for a touchdown. No worries there. All good. Just 100-yard kickoff return for a touchdown, and we are right back in this thing. And yeah, it was crazy from there. And then Louisville comes right back with a touchdown. And then, Kentucky just goes on a run there from that point forward. They score 24-7 after that final touchdown in the third quarter by Louisville. Really, really good football game. And hell, if Louisville hadn't had all those turnovers, I mean, they were head and shoulders better than Kentucky in just about every other category. I mean, held them way down in the rushing category. Ray Davis did have a solid game rushing, but ultimately was mostly bottled up. I mean, Louisville outgained them 403 yards to 289, had 23 first downs to Kentucky's 16, had greater time of possession. It just came down to those turnovers. And in these big-time rivalry games, you simply can't have turnovers like that and lose the turnover battle 3-1 and expect to come out on top here, unfortunately. So, yeah, Louisville gets their second loss of the season, 10-win season. So Jeff Brom probably going to end up being the coach of the year with what he has done with the Louisville Cardinals this year. But, I mean, hey, college football playoff hope's not alive anymore. You can still piss right in the Cheerios of Florida State this week. A little foreshadowing of my early bets. I got a bunch of early bets for this upcoming week, so stay tuned for that. Louisville goes down 38-31, though. Oh, goodness, that's disgusting. But, hey, Mark Stoops, man, he had quite a whirlwind 24 hours. I believe right after the game, there were reports that he told people in the Kentucky program, like, hey, I'm going to Texas A&M. I'm accepting this job. And for whatever reason, be it the fan backlash or a sudden change of heart by the administration at Texas A&M, that falls through. So Mark Stoops, still the head coach of Kentucky. We'll get to who Texas A&M actually hired here in just a minute. You know what? We'll get to it right now because that's the next game up. LSU, Jaden Daniels had another stud performance in a 42-30 win over Texas A&M. 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, had 120 yards on the ground, 235 through the air. Again, if that 50 total touchdowns on the season now, he won't be playing in a conference title game because his defense absolutely stinks. But again, I've said it before, I'll say it again until the cows come home. If there's any justice in the world, Jaden Daniels will win the Heisman this year. Unfortunately, it's going to come down to what Bo Nix does in that Pac-12 title game. If he has a big-time performance where he puts up 3-4 touchdowns, not really a whole lot of turnovers in that, he'll probably end up winning the Heisman because we fall victim to recency bias every time out there pretty much. So is what it is there. Jaden Daniels should be the Heisman winner. Texas A&M, after all the promise that this roster had, all the the great possibilities they had. This was the third year. After that, they got that number one class of all time ratings wise, and 7-5 is all they had to show for it. That's why Jimbo Fisher is out of a job. Thought for a second that they're going to hire Mark Stoops. The fans hated that, and then whether it be because of that fan backlash or whatnot, Mark Stoops was not the hire. Then on Sunday, they settle on Mike Elko, former defensive coordinator for the Texas A&M Aggies, head coach for the last couple years at Duke, and Duke was playing very, very well. He is now officially the head coach at Texas A&M, and ultimately took a circuitous route to get there, but I think Mike Elko was the guy that a lot of Texas A&M fans wanted throughout the season, and I think it's a really good hire, man. With what he has done at the Duke program, bringing them to new heights. I mean, before Riley Leonard got hurt, the quarterback for Duke, they were playing their asses off. I mean, they dominated Notre Dame earlier on in the season, just had a really, really solid year up until it just kind of got derailed by injuries. Mike Elko can coach his ass off too now. I think that's going to be a really, really good hire for them in the long run. Next year, we'll have to see how it works out. I think, if he doesn't do better than 7-5, it's going to get loud there very quickly. But I think if they give him time, which I have no reason to think that they won't, if they give him time, I think ultimately he has the goods, to bring this to a 10, 11 win sort of program. It is a tough SEC that he's coming into, so, temper expectations a little bit, but I mean, they've got all the resources in the world. They got the facilities. They got everything you could possibly want. They got the recruiting assets. They can bring in guys. If they get the right guys in there, if he makes the right hires at coordinator positions, I think Mike Elko could do some really good things with Texas A&M. I think he's going to be a better fit there for Texas A&M than what Jimbo Fisher was. I think the fans are probably going to like him a lot more than Jimbo Fisher. Jimbo Fisher has got a real knack for souring public opinion on him, and I just don't think Mike Elko is going to necessarily be that type of guy in there. Plus, I think the fans really like Mike Elko, so I'm very optimistic about this hire. Very weird route to get there, but ultimately, I think they landed on a good hire here, and it's not a flashy name like Dan Lanning or Kalen DeBoer, but it's a guy that I think the fans are really going to get behind, and a damn good coach. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he does with Texas A&M going forward. With that, though, we have got other stuff to get to, so let's just keep it on moving. Arizona finishes the season 9-3. They beat Arizona State 59-23. Noah Fifita had his best game of a really, really good, a breakout freshman season. Get this stat line: 527 yards passing, 5 passing touchdowns, only 1 interception on the day. And that's your quarterback of the future right there, man. You have got to feel really, really good if you are a Arizona fan about having Noah Fifita on your team. He's a true freshman, I believe, too, so you got him for at least 2 more years. There's no more of those ups and downs you saw with Jaden DeLora. Noah Fifita is the real deal. He was slinging the pill and got better and better and better as the year went on. You got Jed Fish for at least 1 more year. Arizona, man, going into the Big 12, and with Texas and Oklahoma leaving, they got a real chance to take this conference by the balls in year 1 and go all the way to the conference championship. I love the job that Jed Fish has done there with the Arizona Wildcats. Another guy that, very easily could win National Coach of the Year with what he's done in just 2 seasons at Arizona. He has really coached his ass off there. You got to think at some point a big name program is going to poach him away from Arizona, but enjoy this while it lasts. It is a really, really solid team that he has built there with the Arizona Wildcats, and I love this. I love this right now, man. It is a fantastic program that he has built. Arizona State, yeah, keep on trucking, boys. Just keep on trucking. Kenny Dillingham got your work cut out for you after a bad year 1. Got Jaden Rashada in the building, so hopefully year 2 is a little bit better than year 1. Didn't take over a fantastic situation, so all you can do is hope. Notre Dame, just beat the piss out of Stanford 56-23. Audric Estime had 4 touchdowns and 238 yards on the ground. I don't know, handsome as hell, but are we sure Sam Hartman's a good quarterback? I'm not really there with them. I mean, only threw 14 passes in this game, so didn't really have a huge opportunity, but it hasn't been very efficient, to say the least, down the stretch of this year. I've been kind of disappointed with Sam Hartman this season, quite frankly. Did not help his draft stock at all by going to Notre Dame. Helped his modeling career, I would imagine. Really gonna help his his view among the Christian fan base, I would suppose. But yeah, it is what it is. Notre Dame finishes 9-3, really solid year, under the radar year. That gauntlet stretch they had, though, man, just could not quite overcome what was going on there, unfortunately, with that schedule. It is what it is, man. It is what it is. You would have gotten through it unscathed. You probably would have been a playoff team, but, you know, if we're fifths, we'd all be drunk. I think that's how the saying goes. I don't really know. But Iowa State's on the road, no less, in a snowy Manhattan, Kansas, a fantastic football scene there. They get a big time performance from their running back. I gotta check the actual name itself here. Abu Sama, freshman running back out of Des Moines, Iowa. Shout out, that's where I was born, folks. He gets a monster performance. 276 yards on the ground on 16 carries. 3 of those 16 carries going for touchdowns. I believe it's, Jalen Noel, wide receiver for Iowa State. He also has a big-time game with 160 yards on 3 catches and 2 touchdowns. And Iowa State gets the win 42-35 over a really good Kansas State team on the road. A big-time win for Matt Campbell in Iowa State. After the way they started the season and how hapless they looked to start it off, thought they might end up with 3 wins all year, 3 or 4 wins all year. Nah, they end up with 7-5 on the year. They're going bowling. They end up 6-3 in the Big 12. Another solid coaching job from Matt Campbell with all of the suspension going on for Hunter Decker in the preseason. Rocco Becht getting injured. They're down to their third string. Actually, no. I think Rocco Becht was playing in this game, right? Yeah. Rocco Becht was playing. He played really, really well, by the way. I mean, only threw 12 passes with all the snow, but made the most of them. He was at, a blistering 19.2 yards per passing attempt. That's like a really good wide receiver per catch number right there. And by the way, completed 8 of 12 balls. Iowa State averaged 28.8 yards per reception in this game. Jalen Noel finished with 53.3 yards per reception in this game. And in a game where you knew that Iowa was going to run the ball, you knew it was coming, they still ran 11.2 yards per carry as well, in no small part to Abu Sama's 276 yards on 17.3 yards per carry on the day as well. Just a fantastic win for Iowa State in a surprisingly high-scoring game for how much snow was going on there. Another portal, not necessarily tragedy, but a portal casualty, I suppose. Will Howard entered his name into the portal as well after this game. So Kansas State, assuming Will Howard stays in the portal, because there is also the possibility that he flip-flops, comes back after getting a little bit better NIL terms. But assuming that he goes, that'll be another, loss in the portal to them. So it'll be all up to Johnson there. I think Anthony Johnson could be wrong. Guy that usurped Will Howard for a good couple week period there before Will Howard just took control of the job once again. But hey, thought that might be a Big 12 title run there for Kansas State, but just kind of stumbled down the stretch. Ultimately, they finished 8-4, so still not a bad year. Chris Kleiman. Still really, really good job there for Kansas State, and I would expect them to continue doing so over there with Kansas State. But, hey, it is what it is, man. It is what it is. Iowa State gets the win, though, 42-35 in this game. Fantastic game. I mean, rivalry week is the best. Just the best, man. All right, what else we got here going forward? Oklahoma State punches their ticket to the Big 12 title game by winning over BYU in double overtime, 40-34. Ollie Gordon had just a measly 5 touchdowns on the day. What else is new? He's an absolute monster. Ever since they just made him their bell cow, only good things have happened for Oklahoma State. And after the way they started the year, after getting absolutely worked by South Alabama. They finished the season 9-3, regular season 9-3, got a berth in the Big 12 title game, and they have a real opportunity to piss in Texas's Cheerios on the way out of the door of the conference this year. I hope they do too. I am praying for all sorts of chaos here in championship weekend. Hey, shout out to Mike Gundy though, man. I don't want to belabor the point too much because I already mentioned it, but hell of a coaching job this year for Oklahoma State. I had zero faith in him whatsoever, especially after the way they started this year, and he has proven me and just about everyone else in the preseason wrong outside of a select few people. Hats off to him. Hats off to him for what he has done with Oklahoma State this year. Got a big test ahead of him with Texas, though. A focused Texas team that is trying to make a playoff push. So hopefully it's a good game. Could also see it being a blowout in Texas's favor, though. So we'll keep it moving from there. Vandy finishes the season 2-10 after being blown out of the water by Tennessee, 48-24. And never forget that the preseason they were the fourth most picked team to win the SEC because all the SEC media is based in Nashville, and they are all stupid. 0-8 in the SEC, by the way. So that's all I have to say about that game. Good job, SEC media. You're smart. You're very, very smart. Oh, man, I itch. I itch so bad. All right, so we'll keep it moving from there. North Carolina finishes a disappointing year, to say the least. 39-20. NC State beats them at home. NC State, maybe the quietest 9-3 on the season. Had no idea they were doing as well as they were, but hey, Brennan Armstrong, 334 yards, 3 touchdowns. A hell of a game in this one. No interceptions thrown as well. And NC State in line for a really good bowl placement. They finished with a better record than their in-state counterpart. Basically directly due to the win that they just got here, 39-20 over North Carolina. And it's a disappointing season for North Carolina. They squandered having the second best quarterback prospect in the entire nation this year in Drake May because they trusted Gene Chizik with the reins on the defensive side of the ball. Play shitty games, get shitty prizes. That's all I got to say about that. NC State, though, Dave Doran, hats off to him, man. What a job he has done with NC State. They lose their starting quarterback, former ACC Player of the Year, Devin Leary. He goes to Kentucky. They bring in Brendan Armstrong, who hasn't had the greatest series of seasons with Virginia over the recent past, but Brendan Armstrong puts in a really solid performance this year. They finished 9-3, and NC State's still just chugging right along. Who knows where they're going to end up whenever the ACC eventually implodes like a dying star, really just explodes because, the pieces will be going all over the Big Ten, the SEC, and, probably whatever is left goes over to the Big 12 here whenever that's all said and done. Super conferences are on the way, folks. Super conferences are on the way, but that's getting way ahead of myself. That's an off-season topic to get to whenever we get to that point in the off-season. Congrats to NC State for getting the job done, though. Clemson won a barn burner, 16-7 over South Carolina. Spencer Rattler led the game in passing with a meager 112 yards, and someone's going to trick themselves into drafting Spencer Rattler. They're not going to do it high. That's certainly not going to happen, but someone's going to trick themselves into thinking that they can fix Spencer Rattler. And I'm just going to say, if Lincoln Riley couldn't do it, you can't do it either, NFL team. So I probably wouldn't waste my time with all that. But hey, after all the consternation early in the season, they had high expectations coming in, so they were never going to meet that after falling to, I believe they ended up being either 4-3 or 4-4. Got to look at the actual record itself here. Yeah, they were 4-4 after they lost to NC State. And then what did they do? They beat Notre Dame, they beat Georgia Tech, they beat North Carolina, and they beat South Carolina to end the year. End up at 8-4. Like it or not, Clemson fans, whether he uses the portal or not going forward, Dabo Swinney is your guy, and probably wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, I think he's a weirdo. Don't necessarily like his personality, but ultimately, that's your guy. You're going to have to stick with him. You're best for each other, quite frankly. Dabo's not going to have a better opportunity after he leaves Clemson, and Clemson's not going to have a better coach after Dabo Swinney leaves. So you're stuck with each other. You might as well work out this marriage, go to counseling, whatever you have to do. Dabo Swinney's not gonna start using the portal, especially after the way they finished this season. That's going to be all the justification he needs to continue doing the things the way that he has done them. And hey, maybe it'll result in a couple national title runs here or there. Maybe he gets the playoffs. Going to be some inconsistencies in there though, so we'll have to wait and see. I think the days of Clemson being a perennial national title contender are all but over, all but behind us, I would say at this point. So I could eat my words as soon as next year, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm not too optimistic on that front. Liberty. Hey, 12-0 on the season. They beat UTEP 42-28. Jamie Chadwell, a hot name for the Mississippi State coaching job. Ultimately, looks like he's going to have another year at Liberty unless something unexpected happens. Which, hey, if he can do that at 12-0 this year, why not go ahead and do it once again next year? If he does that next year, he will very much be in the conversation for be it the Florida job, the Arkansas job, any old job that comes open, he will be very much in the thick of things for that. So just keep on trucking along. Good for Liberty. They'll probably end up keeping their very good head coach for at least another year there. That does it for the top 25. Let's see what else we got going on there. Let's start with the ACC. Miami beats Boston College 45-20 to end off their season on a strong note. Regular season anyways, they still got the bowl coming up, which they could continue to build up some momentum there if they win that bowl game, finish the year off 8-5. They still got some stuff left to play for, so keep an eye on that. Boston College bowl eligible, 6-6, much better than I thought they would be, so kudos to them. What else we got? Anything else? Duke in the final game of the Mike Elko era at Duke, they get the win 30-19. They finish 7-5. We'll have an interim coaching for the bowl game, but 7-5 at Duke after all of the injuries that they have gone through. I mean, multiple injuries to Riley Leonard alone. Finishing off 7-5 is very respectable. They had a solid season over there at Duke, all things considered. So Pittsburgh, on the other hand, boy, I mean, if Pat Narduzzi was going to go, he would have been fired already, but that's tough. Tough 3-9 season for them. They're going to have to improve big time, obviously, next season if they want to continue, having Pat Narduzzi there as their head coach. Syracuse gets that win for bowl eligibility. They beat Wake Forest 35-31. No more Dino Babers. That's another. I mean, hey, they haven't hired a head coach yet. Maybe Jamie Chadwell ends up going to Syracuse. I'm not sure that's necessarily an upgrade over Liberty, quite frankly. But hey, it's a possibility. It's a quote unquote. Got to start saying Power 4 because there's no Pac-12 anymore, so there's no Power 5. It's a Power 4 job. So yeah. Who's to say how long the ACC lasts, though, too? So we'll have to wait and see. Shout out Garrett Schrader, 11.5 yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception on the day, and 1 rushing touchdown as well for 4 total on the day. Love to see former Mississippi State guys doing well. I wonder how much eligibility Garrett Schrader's got left. Senior, so he's done. He's done, I believe, after this. He won't be back at Syracuse another year. So, hey, shouts out to you for having a great college career. Not sure you're much of an NFL prospect, unfortunately, but great college career nonetheless. Nothing can take away from that. And Virginia Tech got the win over Virginia 55-17 to get their bowl eligibility as well. So kudos to them. Bunch of 6-6 teams in the ACC. So, hey, bunch of bowl eligible teams is what I'm getting out of that. Let's see, anything in the Big 12 happen? Non-ranked matchup-wise? UCF put the nail in the coffin of Dana Holgorsen. We want to talk about a destination for Jamie Chadwell. That's probably the one right there. So you're not out of the woods yet. Liberty. You still could get your coach hired away, and I think Houston's got the assets and the want to go and get Jamie Chadwell. Honestly, that might be the front runner right there to get him. So yeah, Dana Holgorsen's out. Houston always has the want-to go in there and make a big-time hire. I expect them to do nothing less. They got Dana Holgorsen out of nowhere last time. I would expect them to make a similar splash hire this time around. But UCF gets that win that sixth win of the year to get bowl eligible in this third year with Gus Malzahn. Hard to say. Time is a flat circle there. So, hey, good for him down there with UCF. A little bit of a disappointing year, but, get the defense right. Always going to have that offense humming generally. So, we'll see. We'll see how it goes going forward. West Virginia finishes the season 8-4 after beating Baylor 34-31. No man has had a more, Undertaker from the coffin, jolting to life moments throughout the course of this season than Neil Brown with West Virginia after being the hottest hot seat, a dead man walking, as I said, coming into the year. West Virginia finishes the season 8-4, and they are on the come up. They got to keep the momentum going, but kudos to Neil Brown for having a really, really good season with West Virginia after really not being expected to do so after the dismal couple seasons that he has had there over the last couple years. Kansas finishing the season 8-4, getting a cover for us as well. Hot weekend of the picks, by the way. 5-2 on the weekend. We're 4 games over 500 on the season now. We're starting to separate ourselves a little bit, maybe a slightly above average gambler. Who's to say? But on the subject of the game, Kansas gets the win 49-16. Looks like they're probably going to keep Lance Leipold too. So, hey, kudos to you, Kansas. You could continue to keep building this thing up. If once in a blue moon, Jalen Daniels stays healthy for an entire season, hey, you might have a real squad that can compete for a Big 12 title next year, which who would have thought Kansas competing for Big 12 titles? Even without Texas and Oklahoma, that's, hats off. One of the more impressive coaching jobs that we've seen in college football here in recent memory with Lance Leipold there at Kansas. Scott Satterfield, oh boy, that's quite a hire by Cincinnati and not in a good way. They finished the season 3-9, and you got to wonder if he made the right hire, especially with Louisville just turning around and hiring Jeff Brom and going 10-2 after Scott Satterfield got quote-unquote poached from them. So, yeah, tough look there from Cincinnati. I think they're going to be regretting that hire here in short order. But we keep it moving from there. That's it for the Big 12. What else we got? Cooking? Big 10? Unranked matchups. Purdue beat Indiana. Tom Allen is out at Indiana. That's another possible destination for a guy like Jamie Chadwell. A whole lot of open jobs now, actually. So I'm dead wrong, quite frankly. We'll have to wait and see on all those. Could be a very, very interesting week of hires in the college football space. Keep an eye on Indiana. Keep an eye on Houston, Syracuse, all those teams looking for new head coaches. But we move on. Northwestern eked one out. Another shootout with Illinois. What the hell is going on with Bielema ball right now? Obviously, they're not playing winning football and, scoring 17 points and winning 17-10. Northwestern gets the win in this one. They're 7-5, not just bowl eligible, but 7-5. They hire the interim, moving in the right direction. Golf clap to you, man. This is another team that I thought would be terrible this season, and they end up being not just solid, but bowl eligible type of solid. So they get the win 45-43. Crazy shootout for what the hell's going on with Illinois, man? What the hell's going on with all this scoring and these fun shootouts? I'm not used to this. Stop it right now. Wisconsin gets the win to improve to 7-5 over Minnesota, who drops to 5-7 on the year. They get the win 28-14. Braylon Allen in what is probably his final game at Wisconsin. 26 carries, 165 yards, 2 touchdowns. If that kid's smart, he will go to the NFL this year. If you're a running back, just go as soon as you possibly can. Don't take a single extra hit than what you have to at the college level before you go up and start making money, kids, because they will just chew you up and spit you out at the NFL level. Keep it moving from there. Maryland finishes the regular season 7-5 as well. They beat Rutgers 42-24. Talia Tonga gets 361 and 3 scores as well. Hats off to him. I still think Mike Loxley's got the program moving in the right direction. He's just got to continue to improve the recruiting pipeline. They have got a natural recruiting base there that if they continue to tap into, could really get something special going there, but that's been the case at Maryland for a long, long time. So hopefully Mike Loxley can continue moving them in the right direction. Pac-12. Utah wasn't pretty, but they do end up beating Colorado. They finished the season 8-4. Going into the Big 12, they got Cam Rising coming back for his 17th year in college football. Got a solid team that, once again, one of the many teams that could be in the running for the Big 12 title coming up next year. Hate that they're leaving the Pac-12, but it is what it is there, so we'll keep it moving. UCLA finishes the season with a dud. California beats the hell out of them, 33-7. Did Chip Kelly really save his job? He's not been fired yet, so we'll see. We will see, but UCLA finished the season 7-5. I hope they keep Chip Kelly around there. I think having Chip Kelly around to continue developing Dante Moore would be nothing but a good thing for him. So disappointing end to the season, surely, but I think they still have a guy that deserves to continue building in the right direction. I think having him in there, and hell, if he shits the bed next year in the first year in the Big Ten, you cut bait. It's justifiable, but I don't think this is a year that you should fire Chip Kelly, quite frankly, and it doesn't look like they will. If they haven't fired him yet, probably aren't going to. SEC, any unranked games in the SEC I got to get to? Nope. All ranked matchups in the SEC this week as my nose continues to itch and I just continue to itch it. So there you go. There was your rivalry week right there. And so without further ado, let's pop open the conference championship schedule, shall we? First and foremost, well, you see the top 25 here. On Friday at 7 p.m., we have got Liberty playing at New Mexico State. Liberty favored by 10 points against New Mexico State. But New Mexico State, really solid football team over there, so probably staying away from that one. Oregon versus Washington. Also on Friday night, 6 versus 4. Big time matchup. Maybe the biggest of big time matchups this weekend. Certainly for a playoff spot. Winner goes home. Loser goes home. Winner goes to the college football playoff. I got that all sorts of messed up. So yeah, I'm not going to bet the spread, at least not publicly in this one. I may end up going hard on the Oregon minus 9.5 because I do think Oregon is head and shoulders a better football team than Washington right now, and they are coming out for blood after what Washington did to them early on in the season. This is going to be a dandy of a game. I cannot wait for this game. It's on Friday night, standalone game on ABC too, so I will be watching the hell out of this one. Not picking the spread publicly, but what I am picking is the over 67.5, and you can get that at 66.5 in a lot of places now because I was dumb and bet it seemingly right before it went down to 66.5. That's dumb, quite dumb on my part, but it is what it is for the purposes of this. Already locked in the bet last night, so actually this morning rather, so it's over 67.5 it is. I'm taking that as my first bet. At noon on Saturday now, we've got the Big 12 championship. Oklahoma State versus Texas. Texas favored by minus 14.5. I'd actually maybe lean Oklahoma State in that one. I just got a weird feeling that Oklahoma State is going to keep this closer than what maybe they have any right to be doing. Could also see Texas winning this game by about a mile, though, so I will stay away from that. What else we got? Georgia versus Alabama. This line continues to move in Georgia's favor, so probably going to wait on that one a little bit. I am very tempted to take Alabama, though, so might be a wait-and-see sort of game. Check back in with me on the next episode to see if we add it to the slate. Far from the only bet that we're going to be having this weekend. We have a loaded weekend of bets, and one of those, which actually I probably moved a little bit too soon on them. The line has moved in Tulane's favor. It's now minus 5.5. I bet SMU at plus 4.5, though. I think that, this is just a blind. Josh Pate's got a model. You've probably heard about me saying it before. He's got a very, very good gambling record based off that model, and the model loves this number at plus 4.5. So bet it a little bit early. Probably should have waited a little bit, but plus 4.5 SMU versus Tulane. That is my second bet on the slate this week. So yeah, feel good about that one. Michigan at the Big Ten Championship in Indianapolis. They're playing Iowa. It's minus 23 in their favor right now. Over-under is 35.5. Just just a general rule of thumb, just hammer the under whenever when Iowa is playing. I'm not going to do it, but, bet responsibly if you do intend to do that. I don't have any bets on that one at all. I think Michigan's going to end up dominating, quite frankly. That for the Big Ten championship. And in the ACC championship, we have got Louisville versus number 5 Florida State. A game that I just feel really good about Louisville in this one, so I'm picking them. Plus 3.5. It has now moved to minus 2.5. Looks like in favor of FSU. So I got in at a good time. It looks like. I just think Louisville's going to win this. Quite frankly, I'll take the points though. If you're going to give me the points, just as a little bit of an insurance policy, but. Louisville plus 3.5 versus FSU. That is my last bet in college football for now. And I got a bunch in the NFL. I got 3 in the NFL to bring you as well on this night for a total of 6 already in the week. I have got just the Thursday night game, Seahawks plus 7.5, which gotta check the lines here. Not week 12, week 13. Whew. Hopefully you waited longer than I did, because it's moved to as far as like plus 9.5 in favor of the well, I guess it's minus 9.5 in some places in favor of the Cowboys. You can get it plus 8.5 in a lot of places as well. I got the Seahawks at plus 7.5. I just got a feeling that they're going to keep this close. Cowboys have been hot, but they go against like quality okay teams. They always seem to have it be close games. So. Yes, Cowboys have been dynamite at home this year. Seahawks have been reeling recently, but I'm taking the Seahawks here, plus 7.5 for the purposes of this show. Also, Lions-Saints. I have got the over 44.5 in this game, and that one has moved to over 45.5 as well, so I feel good about that one. But yeah, I locked in at over 44.5. I think that the Lions defense has been reeling. The Saints offense isn't great, but they're good enough to score in this Lions defense, I think, and the Lions offense is what it is. They are always going to score points usually, so I feel good about that one. So 44.5 there, and I am also taking the Colts at minus 1.5. Had to get in early on that one. It's now minus 2 at FanDuel, DraftKings, all that sort of stuff. So big slate of bets already. We got Louisville plus 3.5. We have got Oregon, Washington over 67.5. Seahawks plus 7.5. Colts minus 1.5 at the Titans. SMU plus 4.5 versus Tulane. And Lions, Saints over 44.5. We already got 6 bets on the board. Probably going to add 1 or 2 more before this thing is all said and done. So, hey, there we go, folks. That is wrapping us up. Hopefully, y'all enjoyed this episode. If you did, subscribe. Wherever you're listening to this, be it YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, go ahead, subscribe, share with whoever you want to share it with, or don't. It's a free country. You can do whatever the hell you want. I would prefer you share it though. So go ahead, take that advice with all the grains of salt you would wish. I don't know, just do it. Just do it. See how it feels. Just see how it feels. Outside of that, if you would like to, follow me on Twitter. You can do that at Caleb Verzak. Link will be down in the description for that. You can also, if you want to contact the show, shoot me a DM there. Or you can go to the email unqualifiedanalysis@gmail.com and send me an email there as well. Outside of that, thank you so much for tuning into Unqualified Analysis. As always, I've got no clue what I am talking about. But one thing I learned this week: the only word in the Icelandic language with the letter Z is pizza. There you go. Enjoy your week. See you on either Wednesday or Thursday. I think it probably Wednesday. I think it might be an early recording day for the NFL episode. So either way, see y'all.